Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today it's time to talk a little bit about patch 6.1, because a pretty major development happened. The most recent build on the public test realm is actually marked as being a release candidate. Now, if you're not aware of how the PTR stuff works, generally what happens is the initial builds are really cramming in functionality and getting that tested. Then you've got a few builds that are all about polishing it up and squashing bugs, and then you've got the release candidates. Now, I can't remember how many release candidates they usually do, but essentially, if there are no crippling bugs in the current version of the PTR, then that's pretty much what's going to make it onto the live servers. So the upshot of all of this is that patch 6.1 is coming out really soon. Based on the scope of the patch itself, I would not be surprised if 6.1 actually dropped next reset, so just a few days after this video, but perhaps at the latest, maybe, 10 days time from now. So I suppose that's the good news covered, and patch 6.1 does bring some good things. Let's not forget that, it does bring, for an example, those new graphical effects that I covered in yesterday's news video. I'm decently excited because I love my shinies. I'm sorry, you can easily buy me with shinies, as it turns out. So yeah, I like my shinies, and there's also some great things for those of you who are really interested in professions. Now, because of university stuff, I might not really have enough time to properly avail of that, but certainly, even within the scope of crafting epics for my various alts and stuff like that, yeah, they'll be pretty fun changes. But really, that's about it for me. We've also got, for an example, the music roll system, though that's really covered in a better way by add-ons, and I dearly hope that they don't disable the add-ons that allow us to play music in various parts of the world, because I think that for a lot of players that they do add a lot of atmosphere. Personally, I enjoy my garrison more when I can just be chilling out to the specific music that I like, which is some of the Kalawak stuff and the Howling Fjord stuff. So we'll have to see how that pans out. Then of course we've got the new Dark Moon Fair race thingy, which again is pretty cool. And we've got that set of 5 daily quests. So there's the daily quest, which is the profession-based one, where you turn some raw mats in, you get some primal spirits, and then you've got a quest which is essentially just to go and do a dungeon, then one that is going and killing a particular raid boss. Then you've got the Harrison Jones Relic Hunter missions, which are actually awesome, they're cool. And then also you've got these quests, which are like a group quest for 3 players, where you go out and kill something that's particularly challenging. But the problem is that that's it in terms of, the raw content that's really interesting, and I know I did list a good few things there, but is that Dark Moon Fair thing really going to be that replayable? I don't think so. Is, for an example, most of those missions particularly interesting, those new dailies that they added? I argue not. I mean, the dungeons are just sending us back to the dungeons we've already been in. The raid bosses are things we'd be killing anyway. As much as the profession tweak is nice, it's just that, and it doesn't actually add that much raw gameplay in terms of the profession hand-in daily quests you can get. Of course, the Harrison Jones stuff, really cool, they're fun quests. You can check out a video in one of those on my channel. There's 6 in total, so that's definitely a nice thing. And then the other quest is, I think, just going and killing a group mob, and that's fun, but it's not like it's a bit of content that's driving the story forward, or really something that feels particularly meaningful to do as a player. And I think that really is quite sad. Initially, it did seem like there was going to be some content in the Iron Docks, and I did cover that in a previous video where one video where I showed you what they had added into the Iron Docks, and then another video where it was, I think this time last week actually, when I noticed that Zorbik said that they were just polishing up the PTR and that, there wasn't really going to be much more content going on, and that has actually turned out to be the case, so there is no Iron Docks. We can pretty much confirm that. Of course, there's also no Tanan, but I think most of us knew that even before 6.1. Then there's, of course, also the heirloom system, and I do think that system is pretty cool, actually. It's nice being able to have all those heirlooms in one nice little consolidated collection, but again, that doesn't really add gameplay, does it? No, it doesn't, and I suppose overall, with this patch, I'm still going to play the game because I've got Blackrock Foundry to do, and by the way, make no mistake, Blackrock Foundry is a bit of 6.0 content. That raid tier was split in 2, and unlike with Heart of Fear, where they released it quite soon after Mogushan Vaults, they definitely did wait a good bit longer to release Blackrock Foundry, despite the fact that it was being tested at the same time during the beta, so that stuff's a little bit odd. But anyway, my point is that as a raider, I am going to have a new, a reason to log in. I'm still going to have that because we're having fun progressing through Blackrock Foundry, but I think that for a lot of people who are, not into the hardcore raiding and not into the PvP, this patch hasn't really added much of a reason to log in, because those daily quests don't really... I mean, in terms of rewards, I think they give you some item tokens, which I suppose can be compelling, but, I mean, it's just another way to get a bit of loot, and that's fine, but do you not want it wrapped up in a cool story, or something that really caters to the idea of you being inside an RPG and being an epic hero or something like that? It really is a very disappointing patch to me, actually, and I've got to be honest, shame on Blizzard. I think they really, really have ballsed it up royally this time. A World of Warcraft patch should have more content. This is the biggest MMO in the world, in terms of subscription MMOs anyway, and they've, got 10 million people paying that amount of money a month. They've, of course, with Warlords of Draenor, have gained loads of new subscribers, so it just seems so puzzling to me that they haven't capitalized on these gains by following it up with a really cool patch. I mean, if they had have done something akin to 5.1, where, we got a bit of story and some things like that, then I think people will be a bit more enthused, because at least it would be something, a kind of a bit of buzz in the Warcraft story, something new that's going on. Yet that hasn't actually came to pass, and I've got to say, it's very disappointing, it's very saddening, and honestly, it is a tad worrying. I don't know what's going on at Blizzard, and I don't know who's made these decisions, because I don't think they're very good decisions for the health of the game overall. And I suppose, one argument that you'll very, very rarely hear me make is anything that's about the idea of entitlement, because generally that does sort of piss me off quite a bit. But I think there does come an expectation, right, where you are a customer who is paying for an experience, and you would assume that in a game like this, with a business model like World of Warcraft, where you pay for your subscription, and then, Blizzard releases a new patch which gives you a reason to keep subscribed, and that's kind of how it works, right? And it just seems very odd to me that they're giving people so little extra for their subscription. And what I would say is that if you're one of those people who maybe jumped in for the first month of Warlords of Draenor and did all the awesome dungeons, had a lot of fun doing the really good leveling experience, but then sort of tailed off and stopped subscribing, I cannot recommend, unless your guild is now magically able to do Blackrock Foundry, I just can't recommend resubscribing to the game. I think it would be dishonest of me to sort of publicly recommend that. That would feel wrong. No, there is not much of a reason to stay subscribed, and honestly, if you're teetering on the edge of subscribing or not, I mean, there's a good few games coming out now that are fun. You've got Darkest Dungeon, you've got Besieged, you've got some cool indies. It's weird. It's weird that they've added so little in terms of things that I think most people will care about. And because don't get me wrong, things like, say, the Twitter integration, the selfie camera, yeah, they're fun little lulzy things to do, but again, do they go back to the idea of core content where you can log in every day or most days and just think, yes, here's this new bit of cool core content to do that is larger in scope and feels like it's a part of something larger? I mean, if, say, in Lion's Landing or in anything they've done dailies in, if they just added, a few daily quests, 3 or 4, and didn't really give that much context to them other than a random NPC shows up, that doesn't feel as good, because, yeah, the mechanics of doing those quests are probably the same, but it's not wrapped in the context that I think a role-playing game needs. Like Lion's Landing and all that, there was a wider goal, right? You were fighting the Horde for dominance on this new land, and that was being accompanied by daily quests, which I think, not dailies, the weekly story quests, or it wasn't weekly, it was every few days, but, it was accompanied by that, which I think gave you further reasons to care about the events that were transpiring in the game. This patch doesn't really do that at all, and I just think that's very odd, and of course, this is coming out, I'd say, roughly 3 months after the launch of Warlords of Draenor. What I'd frankly say is, guys, what have you been doing? What have you been doing? I suppose obviously the answer is working on future patches and polishing the next expansion, but at the end of the day, you've got to think of how the game is now, and what your 10 million subscribers are currently playing, and what's being offered up to them. And I'd say that the community's reaction to this overall, from everything that I've seen, and I have been very active monitoring comments and Reddit. I mean, even Reddit's, the World of Warcraft Reddit, which generally, as many fandom-based subreddits go, gets a wee bit circle-jerky from time to time, even those, that crowd there were pretty bummed out about what was going on with patch 6.1. And then, of course, in Blizzard's Twitter integration video, yeah, that stupidly, high dislike ratio, When I say stupidly high, I mean stupidly as a form of exaggerating, not saying the dislike ratio is stupid. And the reason for that, I don't think it's because of the Twitter. It's because a lot of people... I just said the Twitter, like an old person. Anyway, it's not because people fundamentally hate Twitter. It's because there's not that much in the patch. And, hit Twitter, really, and that's what people latch onto and sort of vent on. I think that's what's happened. I don't really mind Twitter. It's just... like, if Twitter came out in patch 5.4, no one would care. If it came out in 5.2, no one would care. 5.3, 5.1, probably still wouldn't care. But in 6.1, where there's not that much else, yeah, people are going to care. So I suppose that's just about it, and I think that once people actually get their hands on this patch, they will start to see what I'm saying a little bit more. I think there is often a little bit of a kind of sunk cost fallacy that I see when people try to criticize a game like World of Warcraft, which I do understand because we've all put like countless thousands of hours into this game, and because of that, you know, it does sting a little bit more when someone says negative things. But believe me, I say this because I do care about the game, I do want it to be better, and... well, I suppose that's really that said, isn't it? I want this to be better, therefore I think a good way of doing that is just to call out crap when it happens, you know, and I couldn't in good conscience just sit here with my microphone and say, oh, well, you know, it's all lovely, go out and smell the roses, when that's not actually what I think, because that would be very dishonest. So that's really about it. If you want a full list of what's going on, then check out the official patch notes for patch 6.1. They will cover things in quite a lot of detail. The one thing I didn't mention, though, is there actually are some updates to talent trees for classes and class balance, and then, of course, there's the legendary quest, which will probably have a new stage, so that stuff's all fine, but once again, it's not really a sort of new thing to be excited about, or a new epic event that's going on in the world of Warcraft. Not the garrison of Warcraft that gives you basically contextless things, and yeah, I mean, sure, there's a bit of context there, but it's not that much. Yeah, anyway, that's about it for me. I'm sure the tone of this video probably tells you everything you really need to know, so thank you for watching. Let me know what you would like to see in a future patch, or just general stuff like that, and yeah, I'll see you next time.